Hello everyone, Mike here with you guys once again. This is my new place. We moved about a month ago, and I think it's been a month ago now. Yeah, it was about a month ago. Anyways, my first video in a while, because the reason I am doing this video now is it is time to discuss next gen, because it's coming, it's official, it's been announced. We've seen both consoles. PlayStation just had their big reveal, so I'm going to be talking about the PS5 reveal. And I've been switching my position on whether or not I was going to talk about it, because first I was really excited about it, but then I watched it and was bored through most of it, and I didn't think it was worth it to talk about. But then after I have seen some subtitles and everything, I figured I'd give my 2 cents on what I liked and didn't like about the reveal. So let's talk about what I liked. We're going to talk about the games I liked. It was mostly games, which is a good idea in and of itself. But as you can see, not all the games were exciting, put it mildly. But I'm going to talk about what I liked first. I thought Spider-Man looked good. The new Spider-Man, it's Miles Morales, even though it's just going to be a quick spin-off like Lost Legacy. It's not the official next installment, full-on Insomniac game. It's just something to tide us over until that happens. That's coming out this year. Miles Morales is coming out this year, and it looks really cool. I know somebody in particular that is going to want a PS5 day one because of this game. Another reveal that I enjoyed was Ratchet & Clank. Of all the reveals, that felt the most next-gen. Not because of the visuals, because of what the game can do function-wise. Being able to instantly change levels is pretty cool, and that is definitely a result of the SSD, which is now going to be standard for consoles. What else did I like? I like the fact that Resident Evil 8 was revealed. I wasn't too impressed with the trailer itself, but at least we know that Resident Evil 8 Village is a thing. I also thought the new playroom looked really good. And let's see what else. And obviously, I think the highlight for me was the end when the last game, which was Horizon, the new Horizon. I was a huge fan of the previous Horizon, and I am looking forward to playing this one. But now it is time to talk about what I didn't care for too much, and that was pretty much everything else about the reveal. Just didn't interest me. Especially the indie games in the middle. I think Sony, what they should do with reveals like this is really narrow down the indie games to like a small, like, sizzle reel. Because you spend too much time on indie games, you're going to lose the crowd unless you're doing a specifically announced this is an indie game showcase event. Like if you say indie game showcase, then you can show them all off all you want, because only the people that are interested in that are going to watch that. But it's hard to be interested in something you know nothing about it when all you see are cinematics instead of gameplay. Now, I will say this. Sony is much better than Microsoft when it comes to showing gameplay. There's more gameplay at Sony reveals than there are at Microsoft reveals. Microsoft should learn from this. Phil Spencer, if you're watching, focus more on gameplay and less on cinematics. Make sure your presentation has plenty of gameplay. That's why I keep giving the award to Sony for E3 every year. Even when they fumble really badly, they still have more gameplay than you. So, let's see. One thing I'll say about indie games, though, that when I did see gameplay, I'm noticing that indie games are reaching AAA quality when it comes to their presentation, and that's pretty awesome. They're starting to catch up, and I think that's pretty cool, because now you can have the creativity with the at least AA standards, and that's a huge step forward compared to where indie games were a generation or two ago. I'm trying to think what else. Another thing I didn't like, no VR, no mention of PSVR, and this concerns me. Why am I concerned about this? Because Yoshi Hoshida, I sorry if I'm pronouncing your name wrong, that he was ahead of PlayStation, but he's not anymore. He was the VR guy. He was the guy pushing for VR heavily. His replacement, I don't know what his position is on VR, and I'm worried that he may not have the same enthusiasm about it, especially when you compare sales of PSVR compared to flat screen PS4 sales. So that is a concern. Now, the system was built during Yoshida's time, so the system is built for VR. And one of the things I noticed that is encouraging is design of the console itself matches the VR headset pretty well. Like if you were to put the PSVR headset next to the PS5, it blends in pretty well. And there's also that new camera, which will hopefully help with tracking. Now, but again, I'm concerned because no mention of PSVR for Resident Evil 8, or for the Playroom. Because when I saw the Playroom, the first thing I thought was, I hope this is a sequel to Astrobot. That would be amazing. Fans would love a sequel to Astrobot on PS5. That'd be a good launch title. But the thing that I really wanted to see was Half-Life Alyx as a launch title for PS5. Because there's no way that thing is running on PS4. But this console is a chance for PSVR gamers to catch up with the PC VR crowd a little bit more. Because we were getting a lot of the same ports for a while, but now we're kind of falling behind because PC is continuing to move on and we're kind of stuck where we are. But PS5 could change that. We can continue this VR journey. And I don't want that to become a PC exclusive because I can't get a PC. There's no way. And the thing about VR is once you experience it, you do not want to go back. You don't want to abandon that technology. It really is like, the best way I can describe it is like the leap from 2D to 3D back in the mid-90s. It's like that. It really is. Now that leads me to I don't think this is technically related, but a thing that disappointed me also were the graphics. Do they look better than PS4? Yes. But, once again, I don't feel the same wow factor on flat screen graphics. Like, the graphics, although they looked clearly better, they didn't wow me. And I was hoping that I would see the graphics really take a huge step forward this time. Because every other generation, except for the 8th generation, that was the case. And I was hoping we'd return to that. But it doesn't seem like we are. And that's why I'm convinced that maybe flat screen gaming can't get any better visually. I know VR can get better. I know that. And that's why I really am trying to push for this technology. It's a harder sell because it's like, there's certain things you gotta wear it and experience it for yourself. I don't just show it to you on a screen. But, yeah, the graphics, kind of disappointed. I expected more. Let's see what else. So I guess that leads me to the console itself. I'm pretty sure I want to make more points about what I saw. One more thing about VR really quick. No VR is disappointing and very concerning. I know that they cannot focus on that right now, but you could have had a sizzle reel. Make a VR sizzle reel showcasing Half-Life Alyx, Astrobot 2, any other games that are being planned, if any, and also a sizzle reel for the indie stuff. Quick sizzle reel. They honestly, if they shortened this thing to like half an hour, I think it would have been tighter. But now I'm going to talk about the console design itself. It looks like a modem. Honestly, it looks like a fan-made console. It really does. If I were to look at that and you didn't tell me it was the real console, I would think it was fake. So, yeah, this design doesn't look all that great. I mean, it's different, but I don't know. I'm just not too fan. I don't dislike the design really. I just don't like it. If you get what I'm saying. And I think this is the problem with modern gaming now, is that not wowing me. And I think the reason for that is they know we're going to upgrade. They know that fans are going to get the PS5 and play the next Horizon. They know the fans are going to get the next Xbox. They know their audience is so built in that they don't feel the need to try to wow anymore. And I think that's showing, and I think that's the biggest disappointment of all. And I miss that wow factor. I do. So, despite there are some cool games coming out, and I am looking forward to. But overall, the presentation was boring, went on too long, focused too much on indie games, and honestly, the games I'm looking forward to were like one hand. I think it's a decent launch lineup if it's like in the launch window period, but I'm just not excited for next gen. I'm looking forward to it, yes, because there's awesome games coming for it, but I'm just not like jumping up and down like I used to. I don't know if it's because I'm old or simply because console makers know that they don't have to wow us anymore because their audience is built in. If you want the next Halo, you're going to want a Series X. If you want the next Horizon, you're going to get a PS5. They know this, so they don't have to really try. And console makers before, especially like the Super Nintendo, in previous generations for sure, they had to try, especially with the Super Nintendo era, because that was upgrading was still new to a lot of people back then. Whereas now it's like a given. So overall, I did not like the PS5 reveal. That doesn't. I'm not saying that the PS5 is going to be a bad system. It's one of the things I really am excited about the PS5 for sure is 3D audio. Anyone who's played in VR knows what 3D audio can do, and the fact that they're going to make that standard for flat screen. So if you wear your headphones, they claim you can do it without headphones. Maybe with the speaker system, I don't know how they can do that. But I know for a fact that if I put my headphones on during a PS5 game, I'm going to get VR quality surround 3D audio experiences, and that is going to really elevate flat screen gaming. You guys, if you haven't tried VR, if you haven't tried 3D audio, you have no idea what you are in for. Especially with horror games. Horror games are going to be even more intense, even on flat screen now, because of this, because of 3D audio. That's probably one of the things I'm most excited about for PS5. What's somebody going to get my multiplats for? That remains to be seen, because right now the SSD in the PS5 is better than the Series X, but the Series X has, I think, more powerful GPU, I think. You know, like it's got more power, raw power in and of itself, so that remains to be seen. We're going to have to see what Digital Foundry says. Anyways, those are my thoughts on the PS5 review. Microsoft, I think, has an event coming in July where they're going to talk about their games. I didn't talk about their third-party reveal because it was nothing but cinematic trailers. So I literally felt like I knew nothing other than here are the games that are coming out. Hopefully Microsoft will show gameplay, and because I want to talk about the Series X as well. And also, I will be doing a retrospect on the PS4 and the Xbox One. Another thing I need to point out before I go: no price, no release date. I think the reason for the lack of a release date is because of COVID-19. There's still a lot of uncertainty about that. We're already seeing cases go back up. And I think when the temperature drops, I think we're going to really start to see some problems with COVID-19 again, and possibly another shutdown and cancellations. I want to see other things. And the lack of a price is they're really waiting for the other person to drop. My recommendation, I think you're okay with $500 because of the power, but if you go beyond that, that's going to hurt you. Where $500 was too much last generation, I think now, with the power that you have today, I think it's much more reasonable. But if you go beyond that, if you go above that, that's when you risk losing your audience. So that's my thoughts on price this time around. Anyways, I will see you guys next time, and until then, obey the bunny.